This podcast is sponsored by Kadan Kadan. Kadan Kadan is a new groupage app that allows you to share space within a shipping container so that you can save costs when it comes to your logistics and transportation. Visit kadankadan.com to learn more or visit the Instagram page Kadan Kadan Official. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is Malobi from the Pan-African Kadan Kadan podcast. And today I'm joined by Mr. Bamidele, who is a great speaker, educator, and expert in the international trade space. I've seen him on many different webinars and courses and everywhere. I can't, I'm always seeing this man everywhere, which is amazing to have him on the podcast. So very interested to just hear his story, how he got into what he's doing today, and interested to hear what he has to say for exporters, people that are looking to get into the space, any advice he has for them. So Mr. Bamidele, good evening. How are you doing today?
Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. I'm doing well. Before we get into it, I like to encourage our guests to kind of give their own sort of introductions in case there's some things that I kind of gloss over. So can you, in your own words, explain what it is that you do, Mr. Bamidele?
Basically, I'm a trade consultant. I basically find solutions to trade business problems, either on the import and export side. So we're consulting. We are 3T impacts, and that is trade education, trade enhancement, and trade execution. So that's where the 3T comes from. And impacts is import export. So 3T impacts, import export consulting. So we're a consulting company, and we also have an academy that do capacity building with a number of trade certifications for different people, importers, exporters, bankers, and those that want to build career in international trade. We partner with a couple of schools outside Nigeria to deploy those certification programs in Nigeria.
Fantastic. So, this being a trade consultant is an interesting niche to be in. So, is it something that you kind of fell into? Like, how did you actually get into this space in the first place?
I stumbled on this as banker. I was in banking for a few years, and in banking, I was in trade operation, actually in banking. I was in trade operation for a few years, and I fell in love with trade. I did all the certification I could find, and left banking to then find solution to trade business problem in Nigeria.
Okay, and I'm sure like you said, you're looking for solutions, and you probably found a lot of challenges along the way. I spoke to a lot of exporters, importers, etc., and there are some recurring themes. But in your own words, what would you say let's just pick Nigeria, for example. What would you say are the big challenges that Nigerian exporters are facing?
Number one is the challenge of export readiness. A lot of businesses that want to come into the space are not export ready. And, it's like a child that wants to walk and the leg is not strong enough to walk. So if you attempt to walk, probably we do a little bit of steps here and there, and eventually probably find yourself on the floor. I think that if that challenge is taken off the table, will have solved major problems that people face. And the reason why that's important is even when there are issues, maybe on the part of government not doing what it's supposed to do to support, because you are export ready, you are able to find solution to your own problem. Not having to wait for the government. If the government is not able to solve the problem, you can find solution to it yourself. And if government is able to solve it, fantastic, make life easy for everyone, but it doesn't make you handicapped and unable to move ahead because the government is unable to solve your problem. So readiness will be number one. Number two will be logistics. I mean, particularly port logistics, even though you can still find a way around that to some extent, but it's still a big It's still a very, very, very big challenge that we have to face. I'm talking about port logistics. Port logistics, I think, is a big challenge. And that's a systemic problem. So no matter how good you are as an individual or as a business, if you operate in an environment that have that challenge, sincerely, there's nothing you can do. You have to find a way to deal with it. But what I also found out is that being export ready make it easier to deal with it. Make it easier to deal with it, which is why I am so keen on the fact that a business that wants to go into export must inevitably do everything possible to be export ready. Everything possible to be export ready.
Mm-hmm. Well said, well said. And this is really interesting because export readiness is let's just say it's not a sexy sounding part of export, you know, and as entrepreneurs we get excited by, oh, I want to export to the US and the UK, but you know, when you hear export readiness, I mean, for me, you know, it's not something that, you know, gets someone gingered to, you know, get into exporting, which is what I find really interesting about export readiness. So, and you've mentioned it a couple of times, so it's clearly like an actual really important thing. So can you explain just a couple of aspects of export readiness for people that might not really be familiar with that concept?
Okay, let me define it. Export readiness can be defined as it's a multifaceted concept that involves the ability of a business to enter the export market, to successfully enter the export market, sustainably compete in the export market, and significantly grow its market share until it becomes established in that market. So successfully entered. So you see people entering but unable to sustain. You see people entering and sustaining but unable to get a significant share in the market. So it's a multifaceted concept, and it involves many areas. The promoter needs to be ready, the product needs to be ready, the pricing needs to be ready, the predisposition of the staff is also important. The purpose for going to export is important in readiness. The proficiency of the business, the production capacity of the business, the capacity to promote, being able to raise money to pay your suppliers and get paid, the potential of the product, the paperwork and documentation regulatory issues involved, the understanding the people, and having partner at destination. I mean, so many different areas. Like you said, it doesn't sound nice, it doesn't sound encouraging, but if you do it, then you will have been able to build a very solid foundation for your export business.
Wow. Well said. Because when I speak to exporters, one of the main things they say is, "Oh, I need to find a buyer. But
you see that? You see that
yeah.
statement right there? That statement is an evidence of lack of. That's one of the acid tests for lack of export readiness. If you are ready, you will find buyer. Because if you are ready, you know what to do to find buyer. Not knowing what to do to find buyer is a sign something is missing. So don't be looking for contract. People give you contract. You know, people I need contract. So if someone give you contract today, you execute it. If you don't have contract tomorrow, then your business is dead. Why would you rely on someone to give you a contract? Why can't you get those contracts yourself and have 2-3 contracts at the same time ongoing, rather than rely on someone give you a contract today, you don't have another one until the next 6 months because you are not ready. Being ready means you can find those buyers yourself.
Well said. You know, this is something I have to admit I went through in the beginning, because when I first looked into this exporting thing, I was trying, I'll tell buyers, oh, I do all these different products, and you know, but then when the buyer comes and asks me very specific questions about the product, I wouldn't be able to answer it, or I'd be running to different suppliers, and this one can't supply and that one can't. So really understanding how to prepare yourself and focusing on a particular product, and you know, understanding the value chain of it, and all these things are so important in the export business. So I'm really interested to know more about your consulting, because you know, there's a lot, you know, because the Nigerian government is pushing exports, there's a lot of people offering courses and consulting and stuff like that. So can you unpack a little bit about what you do, and how, because I've seen some of the really in-depth presentations you've done. So can you tell people about, you know, the offering that you have as a consultancy in more depth?
Okay, so like I said, it's that's the 3T means trade education, trade enhancement, and trade execution. So trade education is the academy part of the business. The support, the enhancement is the consulting, the support services, advisory services we render. The execution is actual export. So we export ourselves. And because we export, it also helps us to understand a lot of issues within the business that help us to add value to our client, because we don't teach theory. You know, someone said Nigeria is a place where someone will teach you what he doesn't do.
So
he doesn't do
so
it, but you don't know he doesn't do it. But it's come and teach you what he doesn't even know how to do because he read it somewhere or whatever it is. So we do it ourselves. So it makes it easier to be able to practically demonstrate to our client exactly how the process works. So the academy involves certification program. We do about 80% of bankers in Nigeria, trade professionals in banks in Nigeria pass through our academy. We're in partnership with the London of Banking and Finance. We're in partnership with Americans of Extended Studies, and we're a member of International Chamber of Commerce that draft the rule on international trade in the world. So that's all around what we do. So we do capacity building for banks. We do training for quite a number of banks in Nigeria, implant training, different banks in Nigeria, actually. Then that's on academy. On the consulting, we render support services. We have coaching program, we have mentoring program, we have advisory services across product, across pricing, across paperwork, across financing, across supply chain. Different advisory services we render to different clients, depending on your need. I mean, pretty much from end to end, depending on what your needs are, which is why we also work with you on the logistics side, trying to find solutions for businesses that could not do a container, but looking for how to do small quantity. So support services, consulting services, advice services around that. And like I said, the execution is actual export itself. We very much directly involved both by air or by sea, and by road actually to West Africa. And by road to West Africa, we're involved in those areas.
Wow, you know, I'm so happy that you said that you actually export as well, because it's very true. I've met a lot of people that teaching export, but they don't export, and they give very generic information. They get it online, and they don't really understand the real challenges of exporters. You know, and you can tell someone that is exported can tell, but someone that hasn't might not be able to tell the difference.
That is it. That is it. If you are new, you won't. But if you are, you know that no, this guy is not. He's not.
Exactly. So I'm so happy. So I'm assuming that the products behind you, I can see some pap as well. Those are some of your products?
Yes, those are some of the products we promote for export. I actually export this. This is one of the products I export. I don't produce it. There's a Nigerian, a lady, fantastic lady producing this, and this is one of my major products of export to the UK.
Oh wow! That's awesome. That's exciting. Okay. So is it just Nigeria that you're focused on in terms of the export consultancy, or do you work in other markets as well?
We've consulted for people, South Africa, Uganda, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire. We're trying to get into other parts of Africa, but we've not been able to have headway. We're actually looking for collaboration, but we've not found the kind of collaboration we're looking for. Even on our training programs, we have some job with banks that have branches in Africa. Sometimes we try to get skilled professionals. It's a bit tough, particularly for Francophone countries. I'm trying to learn French, but I can't teach in French yet. I can just.
No. I speak French as well, so you know, if you ever need help with that, I can help you.
Getting professionals has been challenging, so that we can have those kind of collaboration that can make us reach part of Africa. But I mean, it's a journey, so we believe we will get there. It's just a matter of time.
Oh wow, that's fantastic. Okay, so I know that we've spoken about export readiness, and you know, we can't jump the gun and say, okay, let's do this and that. But I think a lot of my colleagues will be very annoyed with me if I don't pick some nuggets of information from you in terms of, you know, say for example, from Nigeria, what kind of products do you see that tend to succeed and do well from Nigeria?
When you say succeed and do well, can you define that? Because that will help.
Oh, yes. Okay. That's a very good point. So, yeah, that's a good point, because that kind of changes the nuance of the question. I guess the Nigeria has a good quality of this product, and so if you do export it, you are likely to find buyers. Maybe a better way to put it is, what kind of products is Nigeria more competitive in on the international market?
Products that are not available in many countries, which is just basic economics. Basic economics. Cocoa is in West Africa, so whichever you look at it, we are a lot better. Sesame seed, the same thing. Ginger in particular, I understand Nigerian ginger is one of the best. Ginger and cashew nut. But because of, I've been in this now, I left banking 2000. Okay, I didn't tell you I used to be in banking. I was in banking till 2010. Okay, I mentioned that 2010. So I've been in this now. I was in it in banking for about 4 years, and I was outside banking about 13 years now. Now, I realized that I really don't advocate for commodity exports. I've done commodity exports, both agri and minerals, for many years, but I really don't advocate for commodity export because I feel it's keeping Africa too small. We need to be very deliberate on value addition if we really want to grow our economy, if you want to create jobs, if you want, whatever it is. If we do not do that and find a way to create that space and grow that space, it won't help us at all. So, and I now realize if you now do value addition, it gives you a better margin. And like I tell people that you don't need to be the manufacturer. I don't produce, I thought noodles, for example, Indomie noodles. I don't produce this. Duffy Food that produce noodles. You know, malt, Maltina from Nigerian breweries. So there's so many other products you can consider for export that you don't need to be the producer of those products. In fact, I am of the opinion we should begin to think about to collaborate with producers. I don't need to be producing. If someone is producing, it's not mean he needs more money to grow. He can't get a loan from the bank. Why can't I give him the money to produce for me and help him grow his turnover? So that way everybody grows together. That's the kind of collaboration I think we should be looking at. So I would recommend you do finished goods. You reduce the risk of quality issues, moisture, impurities, all the issues you have to deal with in commodity. But more importantly is the fact that you are creating more jobs locally, because someone said when you export commodity, you export jobs and import poverty. And I believe that strongly. You export jobs and import poverty. Why? Because someone out there is adding value to it. And the person adding value is the one that will get. Let me give you a typical example. The total market size of cocoa, I like to use this example a lot. Total market size of cocoa in the world is about $10 billion. West Africa is the major market for that. But the market for chocolate is 30 billion. Who is producing chocolate? Switzerland, Netherlands, Germany, England, US. These are the people making money from cocoa value chain. We are not, but we are the one producing it. You know, so it's really not, anyway, I think, okay, in as much as you do business to make profit, I think in terms of sustainability and very futuristic in my mind, a product like wood, charcoal, even though people export it, I've exported before, I don't recommend you do it. It's not sustainable. It's destroying the environment. For those that want to make money, they will do it because it's about making the money. But for how long will you do it? Next year, they will tell you to stop. 2 years ago, 2 years, they'll tell you to stop. Why don't you look for other products that will add value to your country and at the same time make money for you rather than just do business because you just want to do it? So that's why I think I'm not an advocate of commodity export. If that's what someone wants to do, of course, I can assist and support them. It's one of the services we render. But I always prefer people do value addition, from fashion to cosmetics to minerals, processed minerals to food item, of course, and the likes. But more importantly, in fact, what I found out from WTO data is that the report rather is we don't even have to convert the raw material to finished goods. You can stop at intermediate product. 60% of traded good in the world are intermediate products. Out of $21 trillion traded good in the world, about 50 to 60% are intermediate products. About 20 to 30% are raw material, 20 to 30% are finished goods. So a lot of intermediate trading going on in international trade. So why can't you just stay inside there and take a good share of that rather than just stay with commodities?
Wow. This is very well said. And this is something I'm also beginning to think as well, because like you said, you know, importing poverty. And Honestly, I think that there's still well, I think there's a lot of information lacking for people to get into the processing side of things. I think people would also like to get into it, but they don't really know, okay, where to get the machines. And sometimes, okay, it costs a lot of money to import these machines. So there are challenges in the processing, but like you said, we should change the narrative a little bit because I think people also like the idea of like, oh, my cousin imported 10 containers of or exported 10 containers of cocoa beans or 20 containers of sesame. And it sounds great and amazing. But if you export maybe like a few containers of finished products, maybe you might even earn as much profit as the person that did so
But
many.
that is it. You actually
Yeah.
make more profit. Look at this. A container of cashew at $1,000 per metric ton, 17 ton in a container, is about $17,000. If I'm shipping it to the US, I'll pay about $4,000 to the US or 3,000 plus to the US, 17,000 plus 3, $20,000. If I remove the shell and I'm shipping the same one container of processed cashew kernel at about $6,000, $7,000, sometimes $8,000 per metric ton, with about 20 ton in a container, that's $160,000. The same, and I'm going to use the same 3,000 plus to ship it to the US. So it's not making sense. It's not making sense. So why can't they just add value to it and then make more from one container? From one container.
Yeah.
Than just putting commodity and making so small for one container. Africa is doing very large volume of export in terms of container and metric tons, but very small in earning. Africa total export is less than Netherlands export. Netherlands is not up to Lagos State. Netherlands is not up to Lagos State in population and land mass, but Netherlands is doing export more than the whole of Africa put together, almost $700 billion. African export is now up to 600.
Oh, wow.
Africa's contribution to global trade is 2.5%. A whole continent of 1.2 billion people, because we focus a lot on commodities.
Yeah, we definitely need to change that narrative, honestly. So well said. So I'm curious to know, like, you're in the consulting space, you're also exporting. What are the future plans for 3T Impacts? Where do you see your company going in the near future?
One of the things we're trying to do, and we see ourselves doing, is we want to be a knowledge center for trade in Africa, and also a hub for market development for SME in Africa, such that we can set up a center in Europe that can support SME in Africa. So if you are looking for representative that you can partner with, so I have a product, I need market for this product, I'm looking for a representative to work with, so that we can work with you on that product, develop the market for you, and both end in the process. So that SMEs don't worry about the market. Just let us know what you want to do. We assist you with the market. That is one of the very big picture of what we're trying to do. And so that either within Africa or outside Africa, we can work with you on that. And then knowledge center, as far as trade is concerned, to be able to support businesses, either in finance, trade operation, documentation, regulation, law, and the likes.
Wow, this is amazing, and this is a big vision. And when you say stuff like not having to worry about the market, that's a blessing for any exporter.
I feel it's not really a problem. It's just you just need someone. We try to work with people out there. Knowledge gap is a big challenge. I mean, it's challenge when you want to work with someone that doesn't know and think he knows. It's very, very challenging. And that's how the challenging we've had. Trying to work with people that you just realize it just and then, like I said, you also need to be, there must be other thing driving you. We should always tell entrepreneurs, beyond making money, there must be. So for us, we feel Africa can do a lot. I believe we can change the narrative of African perception through productivity, through international trade. If a number of our products are found in many homes in Europe, they begin to see Africa differently, because currently we are country of disease, of sickness, of poverty, and the like. But when you begin to buy my products, and you see it made in Africa, made in Ghana, made in Cameroon, made in Nigeria, you begin to say, oh, it's like these people, they are not just consumers. So it seems as if, so whichever way you look at China, the perception of China before is not what we have it today because of the productivity. It will just change the narrative naturally because if you are using my product, you can't see me as being poor if you are buying from me.
Yeah.
You're buying from me. I'm collecting your money. So you can't be seeing me as being poor because you pay me to get this product. So those are some of the things we feel we can achieve with international trade. And considering the SDG, Sustainable Development Goal, SDG rather, Goal 1, Goal 2, and Goal 10, no poverty, no hunger, and reduce inequality, we strongly believe trade can help UN to achieve that. And we want to also contribute to that.
Fantastic, fantastic. So this has been amazing. Before we wrap up, I just have one more question. The AFCFTA, I heard different opinions of it. Some people say it's going to be great for us. Some people say, that, if we're not ready as Africans, other people are going to benefit from it more than we do. So I'd love to just to someone that you mentioned, I think you said you export within West Africa as well. What are your thoughts on intra-Africa trade and the new trade agreement?
That's the best thing that happened to Africa. Best thing that happened to Africa. Best thing that, in my opinion, have happened to Africa. EU have population of about 500 million. If you remove UK because of Brexit, less than 500, 400 plus. That economy controls about 30% of trade in the world. But 70% is intra-EU, 70%. 70% is intra-EU. Africa, population, more than almost triple EU. Almost triple EU. But Africa is collecting aid from EU. Sometimes it's just amazing. Sincerely, in Nigerian balance, this life no balance. Because how do you explain 1.2 billion? And we're collecting aid. Why? Intra-African trade is 2.5%. EU, 30%. Africa, intra-African trade in Africa is 16, 17%. EU could achieve that because of intra-EU trade created by agreement among themselves. So AFCFTA is the best. Of course, there are challenges. And for me, and as an entrepreneur, you will face challenges. Your job is to fix challenges. Your job as an entrepreneur is to fix problems. So there will be problems. Of course, I've shipped to West Africa, I've had issues. There will be problems. See, that there were problems, that one is given. The question is, how are we fixing it? Those are the questions we should be asking ourselves. So trade in Africa, I think, is the way to go. You know why? Because the EU really don't want our growth. The Americans don't want our growth. The Asians don't want our growth. They like us the way we are, consumers. So if we don't trade within ourselves, they are going to use their regulation laws and non-tariff barrier to hinder our trade with them. So we need to look inward and trade within ourselves. And that's exactly what AFCFTA has come to do for us. So with AFCFTA, we can make that possible and be able to increase trade within ourselves and be able to now, because Africa, if I'm going to export to African country, the only commodity Nigeria export to African country is crude oil. Crude oil. Most other things Nigeria export are either semi-processed or finished product because Nigeria is better than many other African countries. If you look at the competitiveness index, the last time I checked, Nigeria was number 15 out of 55 countries and number 4 in West Africa. So Nigeria is better than many other, as bad as Nigeria is today, Nigeria is still better than many African countries. So that means they will not be able to buy commodity because they are not productive. They will buy finished goods, meaning within the African trade, we can trade more value-added product. That is the benefit of AFCFTA. And that's why we should embrace it. Good enough, 54 countries have signed, over 40 have ratified. So we are making progress. Of course, Nigeria has not been very serious. And I'm talking now from the presidency down. We have not been very serious about it. That's why we also did not sign on time, although the president gave a good reason, which I agree with. But even after that, we now sign. We've not really, we should be far be. We are only on one spot for the whole of last year. I'm in touch with the National Action Committee or AFCFT, the former secretary. I'm always chatting him. Hello, how far, what's happening? They are working on it. They are waiting for president approval. President approval for how long? I mean, it's the way to go. I know we will have to eventually go that route, but currently Nigeria is not trading good enough for the skeptics. Trading have started. Kenya did the first shipment to Ghana. Extra battery, about $70-something thousand worth of shipment, and it was successful. And a number of other countries under the guided trade initiative are currently trading on AFCFTA. So it's here. It's just for other countries to key in so that we can really enjoy the benefit for which the agreement was signed.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. I knew you were going to drop a lot of amazing knowledge. It's been good to have you on the podcast. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what 3T Impacts does in the future. Before we close off, can you share some socials? If people want to reach out to you, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Okay, my YouTube channel is DBA TV. I post video every day on trade, import, export, every day, DBA TV. Instagram is Export Import Academy. Export Import Academy. If you check up on Facebook, 3T Impacts Consulting on Facebook and also on LinkedIn.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, sir. I'll leave you to it. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll catch up soon.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
This podcast is sponsored by Kadan Kadan. Kadan Kadan is a new groupage app that allows you to share space within a shipping container so that you can save costs when it comes to your logistics and transportation. Visit kadankadan.com to learn more or visit the Instagram page Kadan Kadan Official.